Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another pro-revenge Reddit video. In our first story, I thought I was done with my revenge till my former boss gave me a second chance years later. Let's jump right in. This happened a few years back, and recently the whole ordeal just gained some new ramifications, so be advised it's a long tale. Part 1, where I caused my old boss to lose a buttload of money due to software piracy. A little context: I'm a teacher with a degree in advertising and have been involved with IT for the past 20-something years, although I found my love for teaching just 10 years ago. I passed through a lot of schools in the meantime, from the big ones to the smallest ones, and accumulated a bunch of experience both in the classroom and behind the scenes, designing workbooks, video courses, learning platforms, and such. So I started thinking it was past the time to migrate to a management position. The opportunity came in a prestigious school of digital art, and I became its teaching manager, overseeing all the teachers and the intern learning routines. It was a hard but honest job for a time. Soon it became obvious that my boss was not exactly what he tried to present to students and employees. He would display bursts of anger and antagonize the team, demanding impossible results and asking about tasks that he never assigned, but somehow was our job to guess. One time during a meeting, he grabbed a big chair and pretended to throw it across the room. It was his idea of a joke. Nobody even flinched, because nobody doubted for a second he was capable of actually doing the deed. Needless to say, nobody laughed as well. In my country, employers may hold employees' contracts up to 3 months, which means that for 90 days, you have no job security and may be fired at any moment without any consequence to the company, which my boss reminded everyone all the time, half joking, trying to keep everybody on their toes. He actually excused me from this treatment. He had this bad habit of treating the managers differently, and gave me constant praise for a good job till the day my temp contract ended, meaning I was then an actual employee with full benefits and couldn't be fired without him paying me everything the law stated. So it really surprised me when he started the hostile treatment not 24 hours after my temporary contract ended and the full employment began. Gone were the praises, and in their place came screams, bad reviews, and more insane demands. We paid an outside company to do maintenance on the classroom PCs every week, but somehow bugs and crashes were now my fault. One time he made me stay after hours on a Saturday after all the students and staff had left and prohibited me from going home before I had all the computers running smoothly. He asked me to find him a new seller, and I introduced a friend, making it clear that by no means was I asking for him to be hired. I was just making introductions, and if he liked the guy after they talked, it was his own decision and responsibility to hire him or not. A few weeks later, he gave me an earful for going for drinks with this friend of mine, saying that managers should stick with managers and that I should mingle with him, not the staff, because they were beneath us, apparently. I said this was absurd, reminding him that I knew this guy for years already, and that if he wanted to, he could join us for drinks anytime. It was not the response he expected. The abuse continued and actually intensified. One day, I started to feel chest pains and my left arm went completely numb. While my friend called for an ambulance, I retreated to my boss's office, at the time being occupied by his fiancée, and calmly told her, "Don't mind me, I think I'm having a heart attack, so I'll just lay here for a few minutes so the students can't see me." Of course, she went nuts after this. The good news? It wasn't a heart attack, but an anxiety attack, and it wasn't the last one. I was 36 at the time, and it was the first time I saw my mom cry since my dad passed, more than 20 years prior, from, of course, a heart attack. I decided enough was enough, so I gave my 30 days notice citing health issues. I hadn't yet completed 6 months working there. I sat down with my boss, did not blame him in any way, but said the stress was making me worry about leaving my family too soon, and gave him every guarantee he needed that I would work through my entire notice period in order to complete every single project we started since my hiring. So I finished updating the courses, finished the development of our brand new e-learning platform, finished hiring the teachers for the next semester. I even shot videos to promote every single course on the school's menu. Less than a week left till my last day. He called me in his office to show the company's new career plans. I don't know the equivalent term in English, but it's the path planned by the company for the growth of each position. So you see, that's what you're going to earn in a few months. That is, if you stop being a sissy and just do your effing job. I could not believe it. After all the abuse, all the toxicity, I had tried to go the higher road and end everything on a good note, and he called my health issues being a sissy? I was done. I told him to just deduct the next few days from my final payment, and I left. Now for the revenge. Remember how I introduced him to a friend and he actually hired the guy? In my final days, I announced to my boss I would open my own school after leaving, but failed to mention that this other employee was my business partner. So when my friend asked him for his 30 days notice, our boss went livid. He all but threw out my friend, telling him to never put his feet there again and leave immediately. According to the law, that means he has to pay for that whole month, plus every remaining day he worked before, plus commissions. Adding to that my own last payment, which came with 6 months of benefits, we had more than enough to start our new venture. But that's not the revenge. My boss actually made us sign a sort of non-disclosure agreement with a bunch of illegal clauses, which made the whole contract invalid, preventing us from revealing any company secrets during or after our time with them, at the risk of being fined $30,000, around US $6,000 at the time. However, no contract in the world may prevent one, at least in my country, from reporting any illegal activities. Which is why I did not worry one bit when I reported him and his school for having more than 50 PCs running on pirate versions of Windows, Office, the whole Adobe suite, Revit, Cinema 4D, 3ds Max, and lots of other very expensive software. Not long before this, a big and traditional chain of stores had gone bankrupt in our state for having to pay retroactively fines upon fines on Windows alone. So it's an understatement to say that the government was taking piracy pretty seriously at the time. It gets funnier when you realize that the reported person receives an email with the whole complaint, apart from the author of the report, the minute it is filed, so he can prepare his defense. His response wasn't at all unexpected. Some 5 minutes after our report, a similar email came into our inbox reporting us for 30 unlicensed copies of Windows and many other programs. My business partner still talked to the finance manager from our old job, and knowing that our ex-boss would probably be right beside him fuming and screaming, decided to send him a picture of our only classroom, with no computer in sight. We decided to specialize in classes about comic book making, which generally didn't need computers, and whenever we would host a class that demanded one, we would ask our students to bring their own. A few weeks later, I heard that the whole remaining staff abandoned ship, leaving him with only an intern and a few teachers without permanent contracts. My former boss actually kept tabs on us, and learning that some of his teachers were contacting us to host special classes, started to blackmail them, threatening to terminate their contracts if they insisted on doing business with us, even though there was no exclusivity clause in their contracts. Some of them called the bluff, and he had to pay another crapload of money for breach of contracts alone. Time went by, and I hear the guy is counting his pennies and struggling to keep afloat. He used to open to full classes every 6 months, with every date and time available occupied. Now he can hardly fill a turn. He started holding night classes only, and not even every day. Half the week he closes his doors, not having enough students nor the money to pay employees on these days. Before I left, he had paid $40,000 on the architectural project alone to expand the business within a year, but now I hear he was considering closing his door and offering only online courses, even before the pandemic. So now for part 2, where years after my revenge, I made my ex-boss again pay a bunch load of money, this time on legal fees. First of all, I need to say that my own school has closed its doors. Me and my friend were not a good fit, as business partners at least, and now we're not even friends. That's life. We cashed out, sold what could be sold, and each went on with our lives. I may eventually write about my petty revenge against this guy. You can say I hold many grudges, but this tale is not about him. Some months later, I found out our ex-boss was suing us, our school that is, which, as I mentioned, didn't even exist anymore. My ex-friend's sister, who is also his lawyer, contacted me and told me about it. I couldn't find anything on the public records since the lawsuit was running on court-ordered sigil. I talked to my own lawyer and she said, if they didn't cite you directly, pretend you know nothing about the matter. And so I ignored the issue for a few years. During lockdown, the appointed official finally found me at home and served me. That also gave me access to my boss's claims since I was given 15 days to prepare my defense. My wife found me laughing out loud in front of the computer. His claims were absolutely ridiculous. He claimed I stole his courses and used as proof a print from our, now offline, site, side by side with his own, saying something along the lines of, "It becomes obvious that both schools have the same courses." However, he presented no explanation of the similarities besides the names, which weren't even the same. For example, we had a segment of training under the umbrella graphic design, but no class with that specific name, and no other class on any of his main subjects. Also, most of our classes were in the topic of comic books, which he never worked with. He also called us cynical for daring to compete with him in the same market, even if it was my own previous experience in the learning sector that landed me the job at his firm in the first place. At one point, the document cited a statement from our site where we said that we took our previous experiences as a way to learn from our mistakes and do things differently. He called that a confession of plagiarism. I asked my lawyer to let me write my own defense, leaving to her the task to translate it to lawyer speech. I put on paper all the repulsion I felt, cited all my experience with teaching, and refuted every single one of his claims with facts and actual proof, attaching printed conversations, saved emails, and bringing attention to his own lack of proof. The judge tossed the case and made him pay all my legal fees. Just another shovel of dirt onto his coffin. This is John from Slashbash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, then subscribe and click on that notifications bell. I'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one.